entertain now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way. You wasn't invited. Say you come to play. I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me. Then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Yeah, yeah. Out of the way. Game now, me and you, we ain't the same now. Lions coming out to play now. Opposition out the way now. Out of the way, you wasn't invited. Say you come to play, I dare you to try it. You don't wanna try me, then step up to my team. Yeah, out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way, yeah, yeah. Out of the way.
With the Butt Kicker Gamer 2, what you see and what you hear is what you feel. Butt Kicker, the future is feeling.
From the high banks of the Atlanta Motor Speedway to one of NASCAR's newest and toughest conkers. Welcome to the Precision Racing League NASCAR Cup Series on your RaceSpotTV Sunday night. Happy to be joining all of you along for tonight's ride from Circuit of the Americas in virtual Austin, Texas. I'm your host, Joshua Lee. Joining me in the booth tonight is Arjuna Kankipati for a little bit of a reunion to the iRacing Off-Road Championship Series from last year. But Arjuna, today we're talking about NASCAR Cup Series machines, and we're talking about the PRL, which is entering week number 2 of the season 1 of 2023. And so far in the Cup Series, Atlanta was exciting with its new pack racing, and now we go to what is arguably an exact opposite and polar end of the spectrum when it compares to super speedway racing here at COTA.
We've already seen the trucks and the Xfinity Series take to this track earlier this week, and the name of the game seemed to be tire preservation and managing what was a no pit stop race for those drivers. Plenty of power to deal with these in these stock cars, and with the heavy braking zones, the long runs that we've got, it's all about keeping your equipment underneath you and surviving to be there at the end.
Heavy braking zones is right. We saw that a lot today in the real-world NASCAR Cup Series race with Tyler Reddick walking away with the win there and using those late braking zones to his advantage. And looking at the rest of the calendar for this season, this will be the only visit to a road course that we have, with 2 back-to-back visits to short tracks after an off week for Easter Sunday right in the middle of those 2. Then back to super speedway racing at Talladega, then Dover, Kansas, Darlington, Texas, and Charlotte before we round out this season of PRL action. And looking at the points so far in this season, Arjuna, Taylor Stout with that win in Atlanta has that points lead, but not by a ton. Matthew Long, Pat Harvey, Byron Johnson, James O'Brien, Eric Haig, all familiar names to the PRL NASCAR Cup Series that are knocking on the door of getting that top spot.
Yeah, but this is just for 10 weeks. No one really cares about these at the end of the day because we've got a season-long, a year-long championship that these drivers go on as well. They've got their own playoff championships and whatnot to talk about. Yes, there's a little bit to talk about in terms of momentum and form when it comes to, well, we'll see over the 10 weeks of season 2, but I love that these drivers get their own journey across the whole year and will shake down in the playoffs towards the end and, of course, rumble all the way towards Phoenix.
And taking a look at the team standings as well as we continue on with this season. Dirty South Racing up at the top with SGE Esports, Pioneer, YS SimSport, Private Label Team Hype. Of course, we know they're always fast no matter where we are in PRL action and no matter what cars we are driving in the PRL. But as we look forward to today's race, taking a look at a bit of the format that we'll be having tonight. Now, that qualifying, a 5-minute lone qualifier, is a little bit different for tonight's race here at Circuit of the Americas. 10 minutes for qualifying instead of the normal 2 laps. They're going to have 4 laps to do what they can out on the track. Still the normal 1 green-white checkered overtime attempt. We won't be having 3 like we had today in the real world. And then 35 laps to scheduled distance or 90 minutes, whichever comes first. At about 2 minutes, 14 seconds per lap here. We're looking at about 80 minutes for the leader to cross that line. Shouldn't be too much of an issue with time, especially with no full course cautions. But Arjuna, this track is about as unique as you can make it out to be. A huge uphill run to turn 1. Those famous S's, the hard braking zone down into 11, the long DRS back straight, which will have no DRS for these machines tonight, the stadium section, and then right back around 20 turns to the finish line. This place is tough, especially when you work in that we're in 5 gear, sequential shifter, NASCAR Cup Series machines, and not Formula 1 cars or IndyCar machines.
Don't forget that even though in the real world they can take some liberties with track limits, not such the case here in iRacing. These drivers are going to have to make sure that they don't go over 24 incident points. Otherwise, well, that will be them done and dusted with this race. And over 35 laps, picking them up here and there one by one, it's easy. It's really easy to do. And so it starts in qualifying, being able to put yourself in the right spot, get your laps in, and hope you're not starting at the back because as you climb up 100 feet in towards turn number 1, who knows how many wide we're going to go and how many wide we're going to try and funnel our way out.
We'll give you some coverage of qualifying here in just a moment. But first, we got to thank everyone who makes the Precision Racing League possible to broadcast here on RaceSpotTV, starting with Advanced Sim Racing. Owned and operated by passionate sim racers, Advanced Sim Racing designs and builds the sturdiest and most durable aluminum profile racing simulation cockpits available in the market today. All PRL members also get a 5% discount on ASR products using the Precision5 coupon code. Next is Racebox Sim Racing. Racebox offers high-end button boxes, mid and high-end button boxes for sim racing enthusiasts, from the casual gamer up to the most meticulous sim racing driver. Competitively priced and carefully handcrafted, our button boxes are an enjoyable addition to any sim racing setup. Visit raceboxsimracing.com and get a 5% discount using the Precision5 coupon code. Up next, of course, the Butt Kicker. Butt Kicker products offer incredible immersion and realism to every game. Feel every nuance and truly put yourself in the driver's seat. Next is Mecha Sim Hardware. Mecha Sim Hardware is a small company from the Czech Republic, and their goal is to produce high-quality sim racing hardware. If you are looking for high-end pedal set, handbrake, or sequential shifter, visit Mecha Sim Hardware's eShop right now to get you up to speed. Next is Moradness. Moradness is a performance lifestyle brand motivated by motorsport and founded by professional race car driver Daniel Morad. For more information, visit moradness.com. And finally, Ninja Trader. Better futures start now. Trade the world's future markets with Ninja Trader. Visit ninjatrader.com to access unlimited free trade simulation. Time to take a look in on all that qualifying has to offer us tonight. And like I mentioned, 10 minutes on that clock tonight. And at the top of the board, I don't think it's a shock really to anyone, Arjuna, that Trent Dinkle is going to be the fastest as he brings that number 9 across the line once again. But some other times starting to work their way in as we see Trent Dinkle go for another lap onto lap number 3 as he works his way up the hill. Last lap disallowed for is some sort of 0x, 1x, most likely an off track somewhere around this course.
Yeah, but it's only 5,000th that splits Trent Dinkle and his private label team hype teammate Abner Acosta, which does mean, of course, that we are going to see a potential for the tire whisperer Abner Acosta over the long runs here to just use that magic that he seems to have to be able to make the most of the 4 contact points of the car, to really stretch out the life of them, because these 4 Goodyear tires are going to go off quickly, and Trent Dinkle already seems to have decided that with 2 full laps complete on his tires that he's going to pull himself back to pit lane. That will be him done for qualifying.
And still about 90 seconds going to remain on that clock for the moment as we take a look at Rafael Rodriguez work his way around the track. And he's working his way through those middle S's. Still waiting to see a lap time from him. And as you can see, Trent Dinkle, top of the board of the 2:11.074. Of course, Abner Acosta very, very close behind as that number 5 machine looks for his first win in this season of iRacing competition, 2024 Season 1. Entering the final corner at turn 20, back to the start-finish line for Abner Acosta. Will this be a pole run? No, it won't. 2:12.459 on the board that time by for Abner Acosta.
Did he travel in time? You went to 2024 Season 1, apparently.
I think he might have. Or I might have.
You might have, yeah, apparently. Now, again, Acosta on lap 3, I don't really expect him to find the most of the car at this point. Realistically, he's just getting a bit more experience with how the car is going to go. Qualifying, I guess, realistically, you want to get it done on either lap 1 or 2 before you've really taken too much of the tires, because even if the temperatures in Texas aren't soaring, the tarmac at this track is such a tire killer that you will get after 1 or 2 laps, no matter what car you're in, whether it's a stock car, an Indy car, or anything, you're going to find yourself slip and sliding all over the place.
You mentioned those temps. Definitely not the warmest day here in Texas, but nonetheless, it is going to be a challenge for these drivers to navigate their way through. But qualifying is over and done. It's time to take a look at your starting grid for tonight's race from Circuit of the Americas. And how about Trent Dinkle on the pole once again with Abner Acosta in second. Bruno Mello in third, Chris Hudson fourth, Matthew Long and Joshua Daniels going to round out the first 3 rows on the starting grid.
Then you'll have Joe Hoggard alongside with James O'Brien, Eric Hogg, and Pat Harvey. They make up the rest of the top 10, split by 2.5 seconds. That's the delta that sometimes you get at a road course. Tristan Callan and Skip Gandy, they're the rest of row number 6.
Robert Besaw Jr., Waldo Walden going to share that 7th row. Rounding out the top 15 is Robert Gamble with Eric Staropoli rounding out the top 16. Brandon Walter and Eric Papanow, familiar name here on RaceSpotTV, rounds out the first 9 rows of action.
Scotty Johnson, Byron Johnson action on row number 10 with Jose Medina and Johan Seminario, 11th and 12th, 21st and 22nd, excuse me, on row number 11. The first of those with no times on the board, Luke Christian and Jose Acosta, 23rd and 24th.
Running out that starting grid, Troy Torgerson, Charles Sumner with Aaron Beaver, Jeff Winter, Jeff Chandler, Rafael Rodriguez through to the top 30, and Rusty Robinson, Tom Amasi, Shad Kibbe, Richard Pruitt going to round out the 34 drivers on the grid as we look forward to today's action and getting things started here from iRacing's virtual Circuit of the Americas. 35 laps to play with tonight as we get ready to go racing. And Arjuna, Trent Dinkle, of course, on the pole, Abner Acosta in second. 2 drivers that, of course, we know as being incredibly strong in anything when it comes to Precision Racing League and stock cars. But how about Bruno Mello starting in 3rd? How about Chris Hudson with a 4th place qualifying effort? Matthew Long in 5th. I mean, no, we're not going to have cautions. We're not going to have any full course cautions today. We're only going to have locally enforced cautions, which won't bring that iRacing safety car back to the racetrack. But can anybody, even on strategy, try and get by the top 2 private label team hype cars? It seems like a big ask, but we have drivers that have shown speed here tonight.
So the thing to remember is how big the fuel window is going to be. We're talking, what, 22, 25 laps, somewhere in that ballpark, and then maybe you can go even further on that. In a 35-lap race, what does that mean? You got some opportunities to play around either side with an undercut and an overcut. The problem is, you've got Abner Acosta, the tire whisperer, the guy that is going to get the most out of the car, starting on the outside of the front row. He's quick in qualifying. What's he going to do over the long run? Well, we're about to find out. Everyone else is going to have to stake their claim in tire conservation up against the private label Team Hype number 5.
He is the driver to beat, not only on the track, but of course all season long. As we take a look at all the drivers deciding to join us on cameras tonight: Chris Hudson, Lou Christian, Trent Dinkle, Bruno Mello. You can see him down there starting in P3, and then rounding out the field, Tristan Callahan, as we look set and ready to go for all of tonight's action from Circuit of the Americas. They worked their way through the stadium section. Now they're going to work their way through the last handful of corners here in virtual Austin, Texas. That iRacing safety car will make its way into the safety of the pit lane, and we get ready to go racing for 35 laps of action tonight in the Precision Racing League NASCAR Cup Series. We're glad you're joining us here on RaceSpotTV, as it's time to go racing from COTA 2x2. Trent Dinkle will see the green flag, and we are underway from Austin. Side by side off of turn 1, and that's going to work pretty well for Dinkle. Dinkle gets away with that early lead as Argy Bargy in the back. Rafael Rodriguez goes for a spin, but up front, everybody stays cordial as Chris Hudson will assume third. Trent Dinkle, Abner Acosta pull away in the front 2 spots. Through the S's for the first time comes the field, and Dinkle is going to already check out, try and put that 5 farther in his rearview mirror, but Abner Acosta holds him reeled in, now 0.4 of a second separating the two as they'll work their way to the long back straightaway, where really all bets are off once you enter that braking zone of turn 11.
It's going to be about the momentum built up out of this corner, though. Don't expect to see too many dives to the inside, although having said that, Bruno Mello shapes up on Matthew Long as they funnel their way onto the power once more. Not going to see the moves happen there. It's really about now, how close can you get into that next heavy braking zone, because this is where you'll see Sens coming for the entirety of the 35 laps. Already Mello trying to pop out of the draft, but his decision to look for a move initially has compromised him into 12.
And the 9 of Trent Dinkle at the front, going to pull away even more at the front of the field. Now 0.6, now make that 1 full second at the front of the field is Staropoli, Skip Gandy side by side as they work their way through the stadium section. 7 on the outside, and contact made between the number 8 of Skip Gandy and the number 7 of Eric Staropoli. Out of turn number 16 they go into this mid-pack that not quite as built up as I think I was at least expecting, Arjuna. They have spread out a good bit as we enter into the first run, but still a couple of cars working up on one another, and
Abner
Acosta's around.
I've just been hyping up the tire whisperer. It doesn't help if you can't stay on the track, and he's going to drop down almost outside of the top 10 and now finds himself almost 10 full seconds off of the race leader as Trent Dinkle has 3 seconds of separation behind.
What has happened to Abner Acosta? Working his way out of the stadium section, he got loose, got on the gas too early, lost the grip in the rear tires, and around and into the grass he goes. If it was not grass there, Arjuna, I think he might have saved it, but that was a small spin, no damage, but those rear tires have got to be outside of their heat cycle.
And the question is, coming to the end of the first lap, surely the tires would have been coming up to temperature. Was he just pushing that little bit too hard? Was that already a sign that he had heated up the tires previously in a braking zone? Well, I guess we'll find out maybe later, but now he's just got to settle back into a rhythm. That's the main thing to do. It's easier said than done, especially with a mistake that can weigh over the shoulder like that. It is going to be time now to really get down, I guess, to playing the strategy out. And I would not be shocked, potentially, if Acosta goes super long and then goes aggressive, pushing his tires all the way to the end in a shortened blast to the checkered flag.
As we watch this battle between Long, Hudson, Mello, and Daniels for that second spot, I mean, it's weird to talk about full-on tire wear across one lap, But this track having 20 turns, equally amount of braking zones, and also seeing as this track being one of the longer NASCAR road courses now at 3.4 miles and 5.5 kilometers, the tires do wear differently from going into turn number 1 to going into turn 20 on the same lap. These drivers have to look out for that. And as Trent Dinkle pulls away to 4 seconds, Abner Acosta, I believe, lost one more spot to Pat Harvey, as Hoggard and O'Brien going to go side by side at the top of this group. P6 and 7 doing battle, and Pat Harvey watching on as we go on board with the number 67.
Remember, these are long laps as well. The Cup Series race in the real world earlier today was actually a longer race distance-wise than Formula One, despite the fact that these are slower cars. So I just want to emphasize what a unique experience it is for many of these drivers here. Acosta takes full advantage of Harvey's mistake, and now maybe Eric Hager will do as well. But it's an abnormal sort of a challenge, even in terms of road courses. Watkins Glen, that's been one of the main challenges, right? But that drives more like an oval in many ways. Hager up the inside into turn 1. He's going to shape up nicely as Harvey now drops down to 10th position. The other main road courses, though, are all rovals. This is not necessarily the main challenge that stock car racing and road racing would come together hand in hand with over the years.
This group battling for 9th, still going to be close together as they work their way through the S's. And outside of the S's, they will work as we look back up towards the front to Chris Hudson, who never really striked me as much of a road course guy. I mean, in the past, in the PRL Cup Series, some decent finishes here and there, but he really seems to always be just kind of around the top 5. He gets those top 5 finishes very, very often, just never really in the conversation for wins. But how about this run so far from the number 43, as he will sit himself in 3rd in a battle for 2nd place at about 7, now 8 tenths back from Matthew Long in 2nd, and a real chance, maybe not for the win with the speed Trent Dinkle has under that number 9 machine right now, but to possibly walk away with one of his best finishes so far in the entire year of 2023, let alone 2023 Season 1.
His previous win in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series came, guess when? In 2022 Season 2. So maybe in this 10-week championship, this is when it will come to him. But at a track like this, already 5 seconds back, he's going to be hoping for Dinkle to come into some issues to really have concern. Now, hang up and drive. That seems like something very appropriate for COTA. However, some of the drivers, I'm sure, at Atlanta last week felt like they could have just been on the phone, given it was more of a super speedway style race than the traditional Atlanta would have been, which I don't know about you, Josh, made me a bit sad.
I wouldn't say I'm a full-on new Atlanta hater, but I will say I would like to see the next-gen cars on the old Atlanta. That's just that's just my opinion. I think they'd race really well at the old Atlanta, but I'm not. Listen, I don't think we should have made an intermediate track into a super speedway, but I saw the racing and I couldn't complain.
I mean, we had that for a while with the last gen stock car, right? When it was on that 550 package at intermediates, like it was super speedway style racing-esque, but this was slightly different. I don't know. I like when tire wear is a thing, which is why I guess I like the Circuit of the America, but that's also because I'm good at driving at this track relatively. Because you're either in 2 camps, really, Josh. 1, you like the Circuit of the Americas, or 2, you're bad at driving it, and the exceptions prove the rule.
I will say I'm definitely not that good here, but I enjoy watching this track more than I enjoy racing this track. I'll put it that way. I think I wrecked out lap 1, turn 1 of a Class C fixed race this week. And not a good showing.
I should have done some farming this week. It would have been decent for my iRating.
The most I raced this week was a handful of Pro 4s at Crandon, because I just got to take advantage of Pro 4 fixed at Crandon. 1-1, and then got a 2nd place, and then I believe a 6th, because I was thrown in with 2 people you might know, Sean Winkler and Eric Whitner from the off-road side. Yeah,
those guys?
It was. I saw them in my lobby, and it was very much just go easy on me. I'm a rookie compared to them, even with a 1600 iRating. My highest iRating in all of iRacing is in dirt road. So, yeah, it was a little scary going up against Winkler and Whitner. But Back to the racing on the track here in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. Some small-ish gaps starting to work their way in right now. Smallest one is around Chris Hudson and Matthew Long, as the gap between Acosta and now Joe Hoggard, as Acosta has worked his way back into the top 6. The tire whisperer, as he has noted, but there's so much time left in this race. We still have a pit stop left in this race. Still over 30 laps left, and he's worked his way back up to 6th. He's running decent-ish lap times, but if you look at him compared to Trent Dinkle at the front of this field, he is 3 seconds slower last time by. Now this time by, he is right back up on par, 2:11.290 for Trent Dinkle at the front of the pack, 2:11.828 for Abner Acosta as he tries to continue to chase him down, but he needs to make these tires last all the way until we're going to pit, which at this point, I think with 22 to 25 laps in that fuel window, is probably going to be around halfway.
Well, the thing to remember is as well that Acosta, after his incident, ended up about 7-8 seconds behind Dinkle. He's lost, therefore, about 3.5-4 seconds, being stuck behind some cars and working his way on forward, and now get some clean air as well. So give him 4 laps. Let's come back and let's check in to see what that gap is going to be once again, because I think that will give us a good indication as to whether Acosta is going to be able to hold a tire advantage while pushing, or if it's going to start falling off, and if his charge to catch back up in what is now effectively a quest to try and get back up to 2nd is going to come unstuck in towards turn number 11, wiggling around in the braking zone. That's never necessarily what you want to see, and Eric Kaga is going to see Skip Gandy get a pretty good run out of turn 11.
Can Gandy make that move heading down into turn 12 is the question, but I don't think he's going to have enough straight line speed. Of course, this is one of the 2 DRS zones on this track when Formula 1 makes its visit here. No rear wing going to be opened up on these cars. They're about as open as they possibly can be. So we're not going to see any fancy opens of a rear wing to gain a little bit more time today. But we will see those drivers try and get their best run off of that corner, as we have a good battle here for P14. Inside, Tristan Callahan. Outside, Lou Christian, as these two go battling for P14. And Christian on the back end, Waldo Walden front end of this group, Tristan Callahan right in the middle. Callahan, one of the newer names to the PRL NASCAR Cup Series, runs P14 at the current moment as Lou Christian looks to chase him down.
Still side by side through this triple right-hander, which seems to go on for an age. And again, they got to be careful with the track limits, and so Christian will slop into that 14th position, into the penultimate corner, which is one of those which, especially in these stock cars, is so easy to just push off wide and start picking up those 1x incident points. We ride on board with the world's shortest staircase, as Joey Tebben always seems to point out. There's what, 1, maybe 2 steps, if we can see, if we're missing one, that's hidden behind Lou.
I'm team 2 steps.
2 steps?
Oh, look at that move as well on Waldo Walden into turn number 1. But I'm definitely team 2 steps. I think it's one behind that banister that we can't see, and then that's about it.
So Josh Lee's going to throw down with some 2-step at the inaugural RaceSpotTV dance-off. No?
I don't know. Two step at the dance-off. I think you got to bring out a little bit something better than that.
Okay, well, I've got 2 left feet, so you can educate me.
I won't be able to educate you on too much there. I won't be able to educate you on a whole lot.
Yeah, so we're working from a low bar anyway, don't worry. Still Matthew Long in 2nd, by the way. Last time by, what, 0.2 quicker than Trent Dinkle? So 5 laps complete. Wonder if the tires are starting to go back and forth between some of these drivers. Acosta really not closing last time by. 2:11.5, yes, was 0.3 quicker, but not to the margin that maybe you'd think after being stuck behind a handful of cars for 4 full laps.
That's a comparison to the 2 fastest laps for the top 2 drivers. Of course, 2:10.8 for Trent Dinkle, 2:11.6 for Matthew Long. That was last time by for Long, and we'll take a look at their last lap times. And of course, Arjuna, as you said, 2/10 separating those 2 last lap times. But as they work their way through the final couple of corners, we can work our way back to
track
the
limits.
midfield. And track limits who? These are NASCAR machines. What are track limits?
Call Paul Smith up. He doesn't care what car it is. He'll make sure that track. And again, the reason we have to bring it up more than anything, Josh, is just the fact that it's not just 24 incident points that gets you a disqualification. I think they get a drive-through for every 13 incident points they rack up. So, well, 13 times you run yourself off the track. That's one trip down pit lane.
That'll be something to keep an eye on, especially if it's one driver in the name of Trent Dinkle, Matthew Long, Chris Hudson, those drivers at the front. But if we're calling up RaceSpotTV commentators to give their opinions, I want to call up Connery Maddock on a rejoin by one Christopher Bell today, where he almost took out Jordan Taylor after getting spun out right through about where they just were in the S's. I think Connery would have had a nice talk for Christopher Bell.
Oh, boo. I unfortunately fell asleep, so I did not get to watch any NASCAR today. I was disappointed because I was looking forward to it. The fact that now stage breaks don't actually require us to be braking, you know what I mean? It's just the stage points are handed out and we keep racing, so we actually have strategy on road courses. The field that we had, it sounded like it was going to be a great day. Yesterday was fun. I did watch a lot of that, Xfinity and trucks.
I mean, in fairness, I think everyone started to fall asleep at about the second overtime restart. So
there were 2 overtime restarts.
Oh, we had 3. Oh, we had 3. We got to the 3 part, but it wasn't the exciting short track overtime restarts. It was the let's go under caution for 10 more minutes to clean up one piece of debris and then send them back into turn 1 4 wide.
So we found out that debris cautions stopped being a thing because we had stage breaks, and so now we're going to get debris cautions again. Is that what we found?
The stage breaks did not save us any time or strategy for that matter.
Oh, we didn't even get... Oh, that's a real shame.
Yeah, I mean, there was going to be a fuel mileage race until I forget who brought us a caution with 5 to go, but...
At least there's a possibility, I guess. Now there's a chance we might have a fuel mileage race, which at the very least would shake things up through parts of the race until the strategy gets thrown out the bin. Yeah, okay. I see it. I'm sad.
I'll tell you who's not sad. Trent Dinkle. 6-second lead at the front of this field right now in that number 9, and just absolutely on rails at this point. And we won't talk about Trent Dinkle too much, but he does need his due diligence in the spotlight because he's going to be so far out in front here soon, Arjuna, that we're not going to be able to talk about him at all unless it's lapping poor souls at the back of the field. So we'll give Trent Dinkle his moment in the spotlight now and then hopefully not have to check in with him until lap 35 when he's crossing the start-finish.
Yeah, no, this is one of the dangers if you're so dominating at the front. We just don't talk about you because there's other things happening that are actually interesting. The good news is that for Trent Dinkle, here at the Circuit of the Americas, he actually can focus on the race because by no means is this going to be boring for him. Every single corner he's going to be hoping and praying he doesn't make a small mistake and lock up the tires. You mentioned heat cycle for Abner Acosta after his mistake. The way that especially iRacing in particular tends to work is that when you really put a load through the tire and really spike the temperature, well, then you feel the pain not just for 1 or 2 corners, you feel the pain for half a lap, a full lap, while it settles back down, and you never really get back to where you were. So in these cars in particular, it's so easy to lock up through that tricky section Dinkle was in, on the power to spin up the rears. Dinkle's not going to be able to relax. Trust me, he's going to be focused on the task at hand.
We'll go back to the mid-pack as we've got cars 3 wide down the back straightaway and a blinking Tristan Callahan in the middle, but that 3 is Robert Besaw Jr., that 37 is Eric Papanow, and the driver that is now not in the middle of this group, maybe in the middle of this group, now at the front of this group is going to be Tristan Callahan in the 76, and he's going to go wide at that corner, blinking in and out as much as he possibly can with that network connectivity and kind of releasing himself from this battle so we don't end up with 3 wrecked race cars and 1 blinking one. And the 3 and 37 going to continue their battle through the stadium section as the 76 will rejoin us solid once again and make us a 3-car battle for P15.
Yeah, no, it's he did the only thing realistically he could, which was back out of it and let it all hopefully settle down so he could gather his tools up and try and chip away at it once again. I'll throw things back over to Abner Acosta because I've just been tracking his lap times, tracking the gap. 2:12, 2:96 for him last time by, so 4/10 slower than Trent Dinkel. That gap between Acosta and Dinkel now 13 full seconds. So the private label team Hype Machine, I'm pretty sure, is hustling, trying to close up to those in front. He's only got 2.8 seconds still left to go, and Mello is right on the back of Joshua Daniels.
We'll go up to that battle between those two drivers, 4th and 5th, 77 and 78. Mello behind Daniels, and they work their way to the back straightaway. Who's going to get the most momentum? And it's a quick one for Bruno Mello in that number 78. Gap closing ever so slightly down to less than 2/10, a tenth and a half. It'll continue to close down the back straightaway. On board as he works his way into the corner. Is it going to be enough to take that spot? On the rumble strip goes the 77 of Daniels, and up and into 4th goes Bruno Mello. Beautifully done by that Ford Mustang to get by the Chevy Camaro.
Wasn't fought too hard, fortunately, by Daniels. I think recognizing that they had started to lose track of both Chris Hudson and Matthew Long, who are starting to be separated of themselves as well. So now just trying to settle back in and hoping to close back up to the podium spots. As meanwhile, Haga and Harvey duking it out through in towards turn number 17. Haga not going to pick up the 1X off track, fortunately, and now has the inside for the triple right-hander. It's lighter on the tires in some ways as well if you're not trying to carry too much speed, but he'll door the number 67 as the 89 gets back up to 9.
Beautifully done by Haig, and Harvey gonna have to try and come back at him in the SGE Sports number 67, and he's gonna get close into turn 20. Is this gonna be a turn 1 dive bomb move from the 67 to the back of the front straightaway? And watching in the wings, Skip Gandy in the 8, wondering when he's going to be able to get a piece of this pie at the front. Here they go, back into 1. Deep dive on the 67. Harvey going to lock up a little bit. That opens the door for Skip Gandy as they work their way off of 1. Besaw Jr. going to enter into the pit lane from P15. An issue for the 3, or possibly a start of strategy. We would be inside the fuel window going to the end of the race.
I think it might actually be a bit early. Nick Hunter fed us some information that it might actually be a 23-lap max stint realistically, given the conditions that we've got here today. And so, well, with Besaw Jr. getting out of the car, that explains a lot of it. So something happened there. Maybe Besaw Jr. not in the COTA fan club.
He wasn't doing all that bad, and I'm looking at my event viewer to see if he
so you know what
happen.
I think was about to happen? The last information that we had, he was amongst the highest in terms of incident points racked up, and I just wonder if he was straying quite close towards a drive-through penalty, because right before he came on in, guess what happened? He ran himself off the track at turn 20.
There we go. That would make a lot of sense, and yeah.
Only at 8X apparently, though,
so
maybe in something else. I don't know. I'm speculating, as we do in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, incident count penalties are every 13x. So it might not have been incident point related, and we hope that it was maybe a hardware issue. Maybe he just decided to bring it to the end of his night. We hope it was not definitely a real-world emergency that led to the end of his race.
Yeah.
But back to the front of the field is Chris Hudson is now being chased down by Bruno Mello, and in turn, Joshua Daniels, who has not disconnected himself from this group. But Arjuna, get the Jaws music ready. Here comes Abner Acosta.
Da, 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 da. Matthew Long, our overall Drivers' Championship leader as well. Let's not forget that, yes, there's the Season 2 Championship, but we're fighting for playoff points and whatnot as well. Long has a 69-point lead over guess who? Abner Acosta. And so the consistency on the road courses is also great to see, because again, it's a unique skill set to have. The next-gen car was designed to go road course racing, but having said that, it does not feel by any means that it's meant to go road course racing. It just is a little less bad at it than the previous gen NASCAR Cup car we had.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a good descriptor for it. It's definitely not made for road course racing, but it's a little bit more road course friendly. And the 28 Matthew Long running in second. Do have to remind everyone that the current team's championship leader, Dirty South Racing, and that number 28. So he's running for that team championship, as well as Hudson and Mello. The battle for P3 goes to the back straightaway, and down the back straight they go. And Mello not going to be close enough to make a move on Hudson here, but 6/10 is that gap. Last time by, 8/10 faster for Bruno Mello. He has closed that gap to Chris Hudson, and it seems like the 78 of Mello, at least at this stage in the race, and we'll see how everybody else gets once the laps left go down to single digits, but he's really aggressive on those brakes in these braking zones, and I think the real world had anything to show for it, and that number 45 today, it is very beneficial at this track and can win you races if you're aggressive on those braking zones, because they are so crucial, especially in these cars.
And it's interesting to see the fact that Trent Dinkel's fastest lap is a 2:10.8. His last lap was a 2:12.9. So effectively, he's had 2 seconds of fall off. But there are other drivers doing 2:14.5s, 15s and whatnot that have fastest laps that are only a second faster. So they're seeing less fall off, but maybe they are trying to limit the extent of that fall off. Dinkel may be pushing harder through some of those braking zones, which we mentioned earlier are lengthy. On power, you got to be so patient around some of these corners, and so maybe Dinkel is seeing the tires quote-unquote wearing faster, but he's also using them more effectively to get more speed.
Battle for third still very much on, but Eric Haig has caught up to James O'Brien in the battle for eighth as we work our way to the middle portion of this race and closing in on what could possibly be a handful of pit stops. Remember, 23 laps we're hearing about on that fuel window, and we would reach about 23 laps to go next time by. And taking a look at the incident points as well, Arjuna, Rafael Rodriguez, Eric Staropoli up to 9 incidents apiece. Abner Acosta to 7 as Staropoli now goes over to 10.
Not surprised to hear Abner Acosta's racked up a few, just because he would have gotten probably a 2x, a loss of control initially from what happened, and then, well, he's been pushing, that's for sure, and he's gotten down to just 1.5 seconds back from that train that builds for third. We check back in with Bruno Mello, who's actually got a sequential shifter as well, so full credit to him for going that extra mile. You can see him just working down through the gears. He's got a... I'm pretty sure that's a rally paddle as well. That's one of those paddles that behind the wheel where it's a fixed position shifter and it goes back and forth, so you can go up and down on the same side. That's an impressive setup there.
Nice big NASCAR style dish steering wheel as well. I'm a fan.
Yeah, and he's got the lighting coming down as well, or is that maybe just the way the monitors are? Sure.
Ooh, he gets close to Chris Hudson through turn 17, now through 18. What can he do in 19? As they try and work their way back to the front straightaway. Mello is giving a ton of pressure to Chris Hudson, but is it going to be pressure that he can use and that he is going to be able to walk away with that spot in third?
4 seconds the margin between Long and Hudson, so it gives you an indication of where the pace is for some of these drivers, as Haag got up in front of O'Brien in that 33 private label team hype machines. The drivers making moves up and down through the field. 34 started, 33 still left running, and it does mean that we've got pockets of cars all around the track, and that means as we're in this pit stop window now, or getting closer to the pit stop window, remember 23 laps being the most that we expect drivers to be able to do on terms of fuel, it does mean that, Josh, you've got to be a little bit careful when you come in, because if you filter out behind a pack that is struggling and you then lose 3 seconds through the S's, that's 3 seconds that you're going to have to try and find a way to fight back with.
Chris Hudson in third, Bruno Mello fourth, and Daniels is not out of the realm in this battle as he sits in P5. Haig and Bryan still fighting as Pat Harvey has joined the crew as well. How about Skip Gandy making it a 4-car battle back here as they will work their way out of the S's and send their way to the back straight. 4 drivers, 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th as they fight their way now through turn 11 into the braking zone. Is this where O'Brien goes for a move? He does not. Is this where Harvey goes for a move? He does not. Almost gets hit by Skip Gandy.
And now we're going down the straight. That's not really straight. It goes up, it goes down, it goes a little bit left, it goes a little bit right as well, and then it straightens up into that braking zone at the very end. Callahan and Walden as well. They're fighting behind Staropoli for 13th position. We're at that point now in the run where tires have very much started to go away from drivers. And so I would not be shocked if we see some thinking that, you know, maybe I can get out of trouble, get some new tires, and run with clean air and try and make my next set last until the checkered.
Mello's gotten closer to Hudson as we get closer and closer to halfway done with this race. And with the battles we're seeing right now on the track, I don't think we're thinking too much about pit stops as Eric Staropoli has gone around. I believe this is through the stadium section.
It's just before. It's at the end of the back straightaway. I'm going to suspect that this, because they had Callahan, but I don't know, it's all by himself. Initially had...
Callahan also went off.
Yeah, but that is a very weird one. It's almost as though he saw the car in front, didn't want to sympathy spin, so then he tried to lock it down and somehow made it a little bit worse. He was definitely missing the apex by him. He was definitely always pitching around. Just took a while for it to finally break.
That's a tough one for Eric Staropoli. Of course, a lot of incident points already, and gonna add a couple more with that spin. Mello looks for the spot on Hudson to the inside, side by side through turn 11, and Mello's gonna get loose on the exit. Did he complete that pass? He did not. Chris Hudson holds that third place position, and Mello's gonna have to try and go back to square one. That was a bold move, a bold lunge, and if he would add a little bit more grip off the exit of that corner, I think we'd be talking about a different final step of the podium sitter at the current moment.
Got a bit greedy there, did Bruno Mello with the right foot, and all it's really done is really allowed Abner Acosta to latch onto the back and make it a 4-car fight for the third and final step on the podium. Acosta's in a great position to now mine the incident points as well. Don't forget, he's one that started to rack them up as well. Just mine them, preserve his tires once again, and I get this feeling he'll stretch as long as possible to really set up, once again, a short blast at the end where he'll be pushing as much as he can. His teammate Trent Dinkle is going to just be a little bit concerned. He's not being allowed to break away like we thought he was. The gap between Dinkle and Long down to 4.7.
Last time by for Trent Dinkle, a 2:12.326. Last time by for Matthew Long was a 2:11.616.
It's personal best as well.
The gap for the lead might not be a big gap much longer, as there is Matthew Long entering the S's. And if Long continues to run these kind of lap times, and if Dinkle doesn't respond soon, I mean, he just made up 3/10 going through the S's alone.
This is a trend, by the way. The last few laps, Long has been able to start shedding a bit of time. He was doing, what, 2:11.9 last time by, while Trent Dinkle was in the 2:12.3s once again. So it's swinging in the direction of that 28 car. Now 4.3 as they descend down the hill in towards the braking zone at turn 11, looking from up above. See how the apex funnels in as the track widens into the apex. It's one of those corners that's deceptive in that way. Matthew Long flying right now to get this great visor cam view. It shakes a lot inside of these stock cars.
Wonder if he might be one of our virtual reality drivers. Unfortunately, we can't check. He did not join us on the RaceSpotTV Zoom call tonight. I would like to see if he is a triple screen aficionado or if he's a VR enjoyer.
So most people who are good at the Circuit of the Americas, to be fair, do tend to have either VR, triple monitors, or an ultra wide, because it can be difficult to spot apexes on a single monitor. That is not to say that you cannot be quick with a single monitor. I just want to be clear. Not being able to see an apex is not an excuse. It's just a reason, I guess. Racing drivers love their excuses, don't they, Josh?
That's all that racing drivers talk is excuses.
Yeah, commentators love some excuses as well. Yesterday during the iRacing 12 Hours of Sebring powered by VCO, we played a game with our commentators where we predicted which team was going to win in each class. Plenty of excuses were made.
Yeah, that seems about right for especially the RaceSpot team.
Yes.
That's a shot fired at myself as well.
You know who won that?
Was it you?
It was me.
Look at that. I mean, anybody that chose Team Redline was at least going to get something.
Yeah, well, yeah, the red line one was like, okay, I trust Max Verstappen to be very, very fast. Do I hope that Max Verstappen actually has some luck in a sim racing event? That was the question, and I realized there's a second red line car. Okay, we're good there. We can trust it. Poor Max Verstappen, by the way. I mean, poor guy. Was leading by, what was it, 15 seconds or something? Saving fuel, building an advantage all the while as well. Something that only Max Verstappen can. And then the new damage model and some net code decide to work together to end his day. It meant we didn't even get to see Alex Palou behind the wheel, the NTT IndyCar Series champion. We only got the two-time Formula One world champion. Shame.
Unfortunate. Hopefully that doesn't happen in the real world next week in, where are they, Australia?
Yeah, they are, aren't they? As Mello down the inside again, this time a little bit better.
That will be a move made for the 78 of Mello as he goes up to third, Chris Hudson to fourth. What does Daniels do now, and what does Abner Acosta do? As he is the closest to this group he has been. Hudson's already going to try and come back, but he's not going to be close enough entering the braking zone. Can he do anything at the apex? No, he cannot. He'll keep that gap down to relatively low, but he's going to need Mello to slow down a little bit more as they reach the first bit of lap traffic. Jeff Winter, now the first driver, 1 lap down. They are going to reach Tom Amasi the soonest, with Rusty Robinson and Chad Kibbe also all 1 lap down. Next driver to go 1 lap down will be that number 98 of Charles Sumner whenever Trent Dinkle reaches him, who's going to be popping out of turn 20. Not then, relatively soon, I'll say. But Charles Sumner tonight not feeling the best and was debating before he even began this race on if he is going to finish the race.
Ooh.
I won't say that
Abner Acosta's come down to pit lane. Sorry to cut you off, but I am very surprised that Acosta is splitting this race down the middle.
It is pretty much an exact middle split of this race for Abner Acosta. And he is going to pit. Now, we know he can conserve tires really well. He lit up those rear tires when he spun on lap number 2.
You know what he's seen, though, Josh? He's seen a big pocket of clean air that he's going to pop right out into. This might be genius. He's going to come out between Luke Christian and Tristan Callahan if I've got my numbers. In fact, no, it'll be even better for him, hopefully, if he can clear Eric Kaga. No, he's going to end up behind them into turn 1. Acosta's going to be side by side, and this is not what he would have wanted.
He is behind Haig, in front of O'Brien, in front of Harvey, in front of Gandy. P8 at the exit of the pit lane for Abner Acosta. And that is going to be big for the pit strategy. Does Trent Dinkle respond? And how soon does he respond?
No. If you're Trent Dinkle, stay out there and keep doing what you're doing, because look at the gap back to Matthew Long, who did a 2:13.0 last time by Dinkle doing a 2:12.483. It seems to have come back in the favor of the private label team hype car. I was getting very excited about Long's chances.
Trent Dinkle now gonna have to think about that strategy as Acosta pit stop done and has gotten by Eric Haag as the 89 gets a little loose off the exit of turn 11.
Important move there for Acosta as well, to be able to now get himself into 10 seconds of clean air. How long was his pit stop? I don't seem to have the time on my screen, so whatever it was about 2/10 longer than I think he would have wanted in terms of dropping and rolling. Remember, no pit limiters on these cars either, so he would have been tracking that speed all by himself. If he had come out clear of Haag, that's probably half a second he's lost just trying to work his way on forward.
This time by the pit lane. Dinkle doesn't come in. Chris Hudson doesn't. Joshua Daniels is going to be the next driver to pit. So the 77 is in. I don't think this is going to spark anybody else coming down into the pit lane, but at the same time, this will be another driver added to that mid-pack fight. And into the pit lane goes the 77. Does anybody else pit from the front of this field? As right now, that answer is a very big no.
I think this is a response to Acosta potentially out of Daniels, seeing that there's a chance for him to do the same. And after throwing on 4 Goodyear tires, he'll find his way onto pit exit. But unfortunately, Acosta's already gone. And that's the difference of fresh rubber, let's not forget. When we're talking about 2 or 3 seconds of fall off, even though Acosta did, yes, lose half a second there as Daniels gets tagged by Gandhi as they'll now descend through turn number 1. And Daniels might even slide behind Harvey into 11th spot.
That is cold tires from that number 77 of Joshua Daniels. But you mentioned him being behind the 8 ball of Abner Acosta. It's really not that much. Gap between both of them right now is only about a couple of seconds, and with a couple of cars separating the two of them. Is Callahan going to be the next taker into the pit lane? Eric Staropoli joins him. Waldo Walden is also in. Nobody else from the front of the field, as there is Trent Dinkle in the 9. Where is he going to pop out into the pit lane as we take a look at where all the wonderful, colorful dots are running around the racetrack, and Trent Dinkle at the front of the horde.
Apparently Abner Acosta only took fuel, which is a very interesting call. We definitely saw Josh Daniels take both left and right side tires for a total of 15 seconds stationary of pit lane. Abner Acosta apparently 11.6 seconds stationary, so he sheds about 3.5 seconds in terms of stop time, and maybe that's where some of that margin to Daniels ended up faring its way through as well. So just keep that in mind as the brawl kicks off once again for 8th spot. O'Brien and the private label Team Hype Red Machine down the inside of Gandhi, who grabs the spot in the number 8 machine, but now runs himself out wide.
As Matthew Long enters the pit lane. Now, I'm a simple mind when it comes to strategy, but Arjuna, 3.5 seconds saved in the box by only fuel. Matthew Long goes the same route. Is it worth it? Are the tires not wearing that much that they can get away with this? Or is this going to have to be, you know, full on, just as much as you can save in the tires you're going to need for the end?
I feel like the risk is going to be for Abner, the fact that he is last that we checked, one of the drivers who was closer to the incident limit, and so it gives him a little bit less leeway in how much he can push the limits of the track. I'm not too worried about the speed. If Abner Acosta has decided not to take tires, it's for a reason. Matthew Long has come back out, by the way, after 13.1 seconds. Didn't see if that factored in tires or not, so I'll go back and take a look. But he's emerged about 7 seconds in front of Abner Acosta. So given that Long had built up, what was it, about 6 seconds, 5 or 6 seconds to Chris Hudson, all things considered, Abner Acosta sits in a pretty good position, I'd say.
Incident count disqualifications will be at 24x. Incident count penalties at 13x. 2 drivers are north of that number, as right now that is Johan Seminario and Eric Staropoli. So both of them will receive a penalty for their incident limits, most of which coming at track limits, and the rest of the drivers will see if they don't get close to that number. Next up will be Rafael Rodriguez, 11 incident points as of a few minutes ago. Brandon Walter at 10, and still Abner Acosta at 8, which if he gains 5 more incident points, we can kiss an Abner Acosta miracle win goodbye at that point. But he still would need to get through Trent Dinkle, who with 16 laps ago, this time by the stripe, still continues to lead. The handful of drivers from the mid-pack enter into the pit lane to take both fuel and tires. Troy Torgerson is in. Rafael Rodriguez is in. Who else works their way into the pit lane? Jeff Chandler in the 31 is in. Charles Sumner, Richard Pruitt, all into the pit lane.
No tires for Matthew Long, by the way, so Abner Acosta not the only one electing to do something a little bit different in terms of pit stop strategy. So I think maybe validates that call from the private label Team Hype number 5 machine. Acosta did a 2:12.4 last time by, compares to a 2:12.6 for Bruno Mello, who I'm just trying to track to keep an eye on to see exactly how that's all going to shake out now. The 89 has made an issue on pit entry. A, that's going to cost him time. B, will he get a black flag for an unsafe pit entry? It is possible.
Take a look at what happened to Eric Haig. it was just trying to get slowed down for the pit lane and locks up the brakes.
I don't think he'll get a penalty for that, but you can see Gandhi flew on by and will grab that position from the 89 as a result. It's a tricky thing. It's a difficult thing to do, taking a line that you haven't done for, what, 15 plus laps, 20 laps or so now, in fact, because we're on to the 20th lap of the race. Not the only car that I think is going to make a mistake like that.
Jeff Chandler in the 31 with a meatball flag. Not sure for what or why, but he has received that meatball flag and entering turn 11 now. No cosmetic damage to that car. Was it a turtle curb gone bad, or is that going to be an incident point related flag?
Oh no, he's definitely crashed his car. You can see it on the right front.
Oh, there
it's definitely dinged on in. I think if we go back to the S's, somewhere through there, we'll probably find a cut curb, something like that, because that tends to be what happened. We're on the exit of the S's. I can already see in fact, yeah, you definitely got damaged. Ooh, I think a little bit before this even, because yeah, this is the very exit of the S's. Oh, there you go.
There's the tail end of that. Here's entering turn 1.
So it's down the hill where the car does unload, let's not forget. You've got to balance that, but with worn tires, the rear end steps around, and that right front's gonna need some replacing.
Yeah, a meatball flag for that is tough, but that's about how these new damage model next gens break, and something wrong with the front end of that car. He'll have to bring it down into the pit lane, get that thing repaired, and he'll have to bring it down this time by. Of course, no quick repairs for any of the drivers in this group, so he'll have to wait out that pit repair time, as Chris Hudson is out just as quickly as he went in, and Abner Acosta is now past the 43 of Chris Hudson. That's big for Abner Acosta's run to the finish.
The call to make the undercut happen was an important one. Hudson, again, I can confirm, no ties for him as well. And so all of these drivers at the front seem to be lockstep with this call to try and preserve the Goodyear rubber. Acosta there, you can see, pitted on lap 17. He's been out there for about 4 laps. Hudson in this most recent time by. We now just wait for, realistically, Bruno Mello to bring in his number 78 machine. Did a 2:14.0, so maybe also catching a little bit of the traffic. I find it hard to see a situation where Bruno Mello comes out in front of Acosta at this point in time.
2 retirees so far in this race, Pruitt and Seminario. And of course, Robert Bisot Jr. also retiring from the race, and it looks like Staropoli has also taken his car behind the pit wall to end his day. But as far as the drivers within that top 5, only 3 left to have not hit the pit lane yet. One of them is your leader, Trent Dinkel, and this time by, he's still going to keep it on the racetrack. Bruno Mello still yet to pit, and same for Joe Hoggard, who currently sits in 4th. Back from there, O'Brien is yet to pit. Same with Gamble, Walter, and the second Acosta down there towards the end of the top 15, Jose Acosta, as he'll stay on the racetrack. Next up for incident points will be Rafael Rodriguez, Brandon Walter, Byron Johnson, Jose Medina, Eric Papineau, Waldo Walden, all with 9 and above incident limits. Abner Acosta, since he has reached 8 incident limits, has not gone up from there, as the 64 now has pressure from said Abner Acosta, but Joe Hoggard not going to battle with Acosta much, as he'll pull his number 64 into the pit lane for his stop.
So the run comes to an end. Remember, 23 laps was what the indication was the maximum fuel run for these cars, and so only 2 laps or so before Dinkel and Mello should be expected on in. O'Brien, Gamil, Acosta, that's Jose Acosta, and Brandon Walter, along with Jose Medina. Like you mentioned, those other cars yet to pit. And in terms of lap times, it's been interesting just to note that even if not everyone is taking tires, drivers that have come into pit lane seem to be going a little bit quicker, all things considered. Maybe that's the situation with traffic and whatnot, given how helter-skelter it's scattered around the track, but even the likes of Matthew Long, no tires taken. What was his first lap out back on track? A 2:11.801. So once you get yourself back into the rhythm, it's right back up to some quick times.
battle between that other Acosta and Jose Acosta, the brother to Abner, and Brandon Walter in 15th as they battle for that 14th spot. Another battle on the track a little bit further up from this group, and that's Skip Gandy and Lou Christian, who have stayed close to each other, and that's a big time big air off of that turtle curb. Not a rally car, not a monster truck. That is a NASCAR next-gen machine. They do not like to take to the air all too well.
No, absolutely not. And if you do go over those anti-cut curbs, you're in for one of the rides of your life, because when you come back onto the ground, these cars are stiffly sprung and are not meant to be launched back onto the tarmac like that. It's going to hurt, unfortunately, as some have found out now. Jose Acosta saw him sliding backwards. Was that because he's come down to pit lane, or is that just because he's going exceptionally slowly? Don't see him on pit lane, so I'm guessing more drama on track, as Trent Dinkle will indeed bring his car down on towards pit lane. Bruno Mello will extend and leads a lap here at the Circuit of the Americas.
Dinkle into the pit lane, and out he goes. 12.1, it looks like, in the box. Where's Matthew Long? He is just at the front of the front straightaway, comes across the start-finish line. Dinkle's well and back onto the racetrack. 4 seconds gonna separate the top two right now, and that is almost a picture-perfect pit stop for Trent Dinkle, and he will walk away with the net race lead once Bruno Mello comes into the pit lane. Beautifully done from Trent.
Look at the gap behind. 3.5 to Matthew Long. Dinkle now has that benefit of what we've seen in terms of the lap times dropping after a pit stop, so we'll see if the 28 machine is going to be able to close, but Dinkle, who has led by far the entire majority of the race, other than this one lap that is going to be scored to Bruno Mello, has been looking so consistent and so calm as well. The few times that we saw his webcam, Josh, you see the thing that you see from all top-level sim racers, which is being calm, being focused, and not being too worried about everything that's going on.
Exactly how that number 9 races, whether we're at one of the most physically demanding tracks in Circuit of the Americas, or if we're running at Daytona, where it's more of a mental game over a physical game. Trent Dinkle always looks like he's just out for a nice Sunday drive. And I mentioned monster trucks, and my nerd brain started turning, and I wondered if monster trucks had ever been to Circuit of the Americas, because they've had Formula One, they've had NASCAR, they've had IndyCar, they've had Global Rallycross, they've had the X Games here, they've had so much at this track. No formal monster truck event. However, the fastest speed set in a monster truck back in 2014 by Mark Hall and the Raminator team was at this track. That record has since been broken, I believe not once, but twice since that day. But one of the monster truck world records was set right here at Circuit of the Americas. Pretty cool.
How do you work again, Josh?
How do I work, or who do I work?
Where do you work?
Everywhere.
Who do you work for, I guess?
Monster Jam.
There you go. I was just reminding myself. Bruno Mello, pit lane this time by in that 78 machine, which, by the way, is the best number in motorsport. So I am instantly a fan, and I am cheering for Bruno Mello. Now, no tires for him from what we can see, because no jack seem to be spooling up that car, and as Dinkle and Long slide on through, it's a long wait to see where Abner Acosta is all going to fare out in this one. 12.4 stationary, and Mello basically immediately hits the line where he can build his speed back up. Acosta around the outside already with the heat in the tires will try and grab third position, and the private label Team Hype driver will be able to do so, but Mello's still in the fight.
That is not by a lot, and Mello's going to have a shot to get back by Abner Acosta as James O'Brien also comes into the pit lane. 12 laps remaining. Next driver to fall victim to an incident point penalty is going to be Byron Johnson in that. Is going to be Byron Johnson, and Trent Dinkle caught up in traffic, gap down to 9/10, and Matthew Long is in now contention for that race lead. Then I'm going to get by the 80 lapped machine. He'll put that number 80 machine one lap down for the first time tonight. He's got Brandon Walter, Jose Acosta, Byron Johnson all up the road. And now a Matthew Long 1.2 seconds back.
Traffic gives, the traffic will take, and so for Trent Dinkle, yes, you can't get too frustrated with what's just happened. It hurts to have bled all that time. The good thing, you've got a teammate in front. You know that the private label Team Hype machine car will enable you. Brandon Walter will let you go on through. locks up the inside front and sliding on through. The dark blue private label Team Hype car will go. 12 to go, 11 at the line. Both these drivers have completed the strategy. It comes down now to what they've got left underneath them. 35 laps on tires here. Josh, let's not forget, that is a stretch. And so as Abner Acosta and Bruno Mello get ready to lock horns, I've got to wonder, how much life do we really have left in these tires?
And can Matthew Long catch back up to that number 9? Because it seems like the only time he was able to do anything was when he had traffic in front of him, which is helpful for the moment, but he's going to need about 2 laps worth of traffic to get back to the back bumper of the 9. One thing to catch him, another thing to pass him. Even in traffic, it's going to be difficult to make that pass. Even more difficult if Trent Dinkel is outside of traffic, because he's going to have all the room to play for. Issue in the back, it looks like for Byron Johnson, or that's actually him coming out of the pit lane after serving that incident point penalty. The 18 pulls back onto the track, 1 lap down, P20, as the battle for 3rd place on, coming down the hill off of turn 1.
They'll have traffic to deal with as well, don't forget. All the traffic that Dinkel and Long have already fought their way through. Behind Chris Hudson's inside of touching distance, and so that's going to give him some optimism as well, that he can make this a 3-way fight for the 3rd and final step on the podium. But it's not going to be easy. It's going to take the most of the driver's patience and endurance. We talked about how this race has a 90-minute time limit. Say that one 5 times fast. Which means that, yes, it's not necessarily the longest race, but this is one of those tracks where you're never at full throttle as you try and get off the corner. You're slowly waiting, feeling like you got an egg on the other side of the pedal and you don't want to push it too hard. That's the type of tension these drivers are dealing with, and they've got 11 laps still left to go. Mello's got a great run out of turn 11.
What can Bruno Mello do? Down the long back straightaway. Battle for 3rd. Now 3.5 tenths the gap. Mello did not make up any time in the slipstream down the back straightaway. And they are going to have that 18 up in front. The driver just coming out after serving an incident point penalty as they work their way through the stadium section. They are now dealing with the same traffic that Trent Dinkel had to deal with about a lap ago. And right now for the Trent Dinkel, he has not reached any more traffic, but Long hasn't either. Long is also now in clean air. And where we stand at the current moment at 1.5 seconds, he's not gaining a whole lot of time back, except last time by, it was 1 second in favor of Matthew Long. I mean, this time by 2:12.3 for Trent Dinkel, 2:12.1 for Matthew Long. He's gaining time back, but 10 laps to go, 1.7 to 1.6 seconds the gap. He's got to gain back time a lot quicker than he's doing it right now.
Trent Dinkel hasn't won a race this year. He's had 12 victories in this PRL Cup Series over the years, but none so far in 2023. He's had 17 pole positions now over the course of his time as well, so he's always in and around at the front. He knows how these cars have played out. For so long has been running at the front. How will he deal now with a little bit of pressure from behind? That will be the question. Long, as he closes in the rearview mirrors and shows his nose, where does Dinkel go in terms of lines? Where does he feel comfortable putting the car? These are all things that Long's going to be watching as well, because as the laps tick away, the opportunities to make the passes start falling by the wayside, and so Long will try and find the best time to spring the surprise to get it done.
To the back straightaway, fishtailing off the exit of turn 11. He's not going to gain back any time down the back straight, as Dinkel has more lapped cars in front of him. The next driver to go from the lead lap to a lap down will be Eric Papineau, as Acosta and Mello still in a battle. 2/10 that gap into turn 12. Does Mello go late to the brakes? No, he does not. Stays tucked in behind Abner Acosta into turn 12, with more machines in front to try and navigate their way through. Acosta looks to the inside, number 39. They get by clean. Same with the 78 of Mello, but that's going to close the gap even more. To the back bumper goes the 78 into the stadium section. He won't get the move done, but again, he is staying set up and ready to pounce. With 10 to go, that's not a lot if we go to, say, Bristol, Martinsville, even some of the intermediates like a Charlotte or a Texas. 10 to go and make it 9 to go at the stripe at Circuit of the Americas. We're still looking at about 20 minutes left in this race. The lap count might be low, but the overall time left, Arjuna, is far from. These drivers have to still remember they have almost half a race still left to go.
Yes, but the problem is you can still have 10 laps at the Circuit of the Americas, but if you aren't faster than the car in front, you're not going to get past. It's something that even in the World Championships in the Porsche Tag Heuer Esports Super Cup that I talked to some of the drivers about, where they're like, yeah, I'm feeling great about my pace, but I know that if I don't qualify well, it's very difficult to pass, and I know I'm probably not going to make up many positions, right? And so even when you've got 9 laps to go, the thing that we can remember with these stock cars is that there is the potential for mistakes. Now, normally I'd be sitting here going, Abner Acosta's not going to make a mistake. He's the tire whisperer. He's already made a mistake today, and it happened on the very first lap of the race. So as much as I want to say Abner Acosta isn't necessarily feeling the heat, Hudson's on the back of them as well. They're carving their way through traffic. Mello's been right up the bumper now for, what, 3 or 4 laps. It's all starting to bubble up at Texas.
12 seconds, the gap between Acosta and Long. This is not a battle that we're going to be talking about for victory lane, but this is going to be a battle that we're going to be talking about for, I think, bragging rights. I think it also comes down to points. I think it also comes down to who's going to be that final step of the podium here at Circuit of the Americas. But I think it's just important for just overall momentum heading into the rest of the season. Chris Hudson looking at a good top 5 finish yet again. How about Abner Acosta looking to try and rebound from a mistake back on lap 2 that has put him behind the 8 ball ever since? How about this rebound from Abner Acosta? Yes, rebounding to first would be a dream come true, but rebounding to finish back on the podium after being as far down as I believe outside the top 10 at one point, that's a very, very good day for Abner Acosta.
Absolutely. It's one of those fight backs that you can be at least happy with, even if you're going to be slightly frustrated thinking, oh, if I had that pace, I could have been fighting for the lead. I think all things considered, though, his margin up to Trent Dinkel is still about 13 seconds, and he's never really got it back down below 10 seconds at any point, so he's done well to maximize the result, but I think Dinkel and Long would have maybe proven to be strong, although Acosta's had to fight a very different sort of a race. Speaking of Dinkel and Long, as they continue to go their way through traffic, the gap going back and forth and back and forth. It's going to go underneath a second again for a moment. 28 Dirty South Racing Machine starting to come strong again, but Dinkel still looking like he's comfortable.
Back to the battle for the lead. Through the S's they go. Last time by 2 tenths faster in favor of Matthew Long. He closes the gap, and then it kind of spreads back out. Then he closes the gap, then it kind of spreads back out. Long needs to have steady growth at the 9. With 8 to go, I don't think he necessarily needs to, gain a ton back and then be on the back bumper for too long, Arjuna, because yes, passing is at a premium here at Circuit of the Americas. But Trent Dinkel has not had to race defensively yet today. Matthew Long has had to do nothing but race on offense. So I think if anybody knows how to get it done, it's Bruno Mello over Matthew Long, because Mello just made a move into turn 11 and up to 3rd goes the 78.
He likes turn 11. I don't know why, but he's never really been close enough into 12 to have a lunge. It's been through 11. Speaking of 11, has Josh Daniels just gone in front of Joe Hoggard through that braking zone? I think he did. Mello's now, though, going to have to watch behind, because Acosta's going to be just trying to find a way back to chip away at him. Maybe it will be out of turn 11, where Acosta seems to have been a little bit better over the course of the run. Already, though, 7 tenths. The margin that Mello's built up as they wind their way out now of the stadium.
8 tenths, the gap for the race lead, as Long is going to gain back a ton of time, this time by the stripe. What is Trent Dinkel starting to think? And let's check back in. Has that face changed at all, or is it still the calm, cool, collected Trent Dinkel? I couldn't put it up there for a moment, Arjuna, but I saw out of the corner of my eye Trent Dinkel shaking his head that time by the stripe at that lap time. 3 tenths in favor of Matthew Long. I think Dinkel knows he's making mistakes, and he knows he needs to minimize them with only 7 to go.
There's definitely some stress on that face. That is for sure. You can see the tension almost just written on the face. Hudson and Acosta now, they'll fight for 4th and 5th position all the while. So while Dinkel and Long really haven't started putting on a show just yet, they know that if they do get squabbled up and tangled up like this, then it might not end the way they would want. Hudson finally in front into the S's, but now 2 full seconds back from Bruno Mello, who timed that move exactly when Acosta started to struggle with tires. Remember, he came in the earliest of them all, has maybe been pushing to try and make the most use of the undercut. Maybe has worn the tires the most.
Yeah, that's not a good look for Abner Acosta right now in that number 5. Of course, rebounded up to 3rd. Amazingly done, and rightfully so. But since then, burning those tires up, trying to hold that spot is proving to not be the best choice for Abner Acosta. As he'll look back to the inside on Hudson into 11, and not even side by side as they enter the braking zone. Inside, 6/10 left. That time out of turn 11 and down the back straightaway might have been Long's best. Now, this is a close battle for the lead, but as they enter the stadium section into those slow speed corners, they are going to be much closer together than they would be on the back straightaway or on the front straightaway. Can Long get close enough to ruffle the feathers of Trent Dinkel if he hasn't already? Out of turn number 16, and now going into the 3rd sector. Long within a half second. He is going to have an opportunity, Arjuna, but he's got to be smart. Where does this move take place? Is it going to be a turn 1 move? Is it going to be turn 11? Can he make it into turn 12? You've already seen him get such good runs off of turn 11, set himself up for turn 12, and now he's going to have to put that to work to try and win this race.
I feel like you wait for the opportunity. Look how much he's stepping out the rear end. He's committed on his own, and in fact is going to lose some ground sliding that car out of that final corner. Just be patient, let it come to you. You've clearly got the speed, and let's not forget, for Matthew Long, an opportunity to extend what will be the overall championship advantage in the year-long PRL Cup Series.
Through the S's, 3/10 the gap. This seems to be where Trent Dinkel's losing a ton of time. This could be where Matthew Long makes that move on the back straightaway. 3/10 as they work their way out of the S's and through turns 8 and 9. Long is on the back bumper. Does he use the braking zone at turn 11 to get the race lead away from Trent Dinkel? They work their way in. He looks for it. Dinkel goes on the defensive, and on the inside line, Dinkel is going to hold that spot, and Long overcooks it off the exit of turn 11 and loses back all the ground he just made up. It's back to 7/10 as they work their way into 12.
I think the problem was that Dinkel actually shuffled to the left a little bit late into the braking zone after Long had already committed initially, and so Long had to take slight avoiding action, and that set him up a little bit wide, not able to get the run off of the corner. Remember that Matthew Long has won 6 races so far in 2023, all in season 1. He's trying to add to that tally, to add to the 11 that he's had across of his PRL NASCAR Cup Series career. And right now, setting himself up beautifully through the stadium section to try and close that margin, although it's grown to 1.1. Dinkel maybe has a smile on his face for once.
Still looking a little bit stressed, but you can breathe a little bit easier. 1 full second. That gap now, and Long's gonna overcook it off the exit of that corner too. Uses the track limits. Does he have to give that back though? Gap went from about a second down to 9/10. Is he giving the time back? He is not. That's gonna be legal, and that might be a little bit of help for Matthew Long, but it looks like he will have to give that time back. Rolled black flag for the 28.
That's one of those things that they can get away with in the real world that we can't hear in the sim, and he's going to be trying to just bleed off the slowdown penalty as slowly as he can. Don't forget that with the worn tires, maybe that they will be able to get away with that one. The lap time as a result that he would have set across the line technically doesn't count because of that furled black flag. Still 8/10. He's been able to clear it without losing too much time, I guess, so impressive job. Still 5 to go. And he only needs one more opportunity, and I think he'll know that Dinkel is going to be thinking about going to the inside, and I wonder if he'll try and set him up for Dinkel to overcommit, and for Long to try and sweep back and set it up rather on the straight.
he's going to have to really think about how he's going to set this back up, because once he did, Dinkel knew exactly what defensive line to run. I mentioned earlier how Dinkel has not driven defense today. Doesn't necessarily mean he doesn't know how to drive defense or can't drive defense. Just we haven't seen it out of the 9 yet. He didn't know what was in his bag of tricks. And now we know what Dinkel is willing to do to walk away for this win. And like you said, Arjuna, looking for number 1 in 2023. I think this number 9 is going to try just about anything he possibly can within reason to walk away with the checkered flag at the end of this race.
Behind them, just wanted to bring our attention to the fact that Bruno Mello, in the best number in all of motorsports, has pulled away from Hudson and Acosta, who still fight for 4th position as they wrap their way in towards as turns 13, 14, 15, and 16. 3.5 seconds now, that margin. Acosta still trying to knock at the door. And give a shout out to Bruno Mello, who's did qualify up in 30S, but has had to fight his way back up to a podium position and has potentially made some of the best moves of the race.
He's looking at a podium finish, a really good one in a really tough track. So great run for Bruno Mello so far today. He's still got 4 laps to try and hold on to that spot, but with a decent gap, he's not going to have too much trouble doing so. Back up the hill to turn number 1. 4 laps to go as the 9 of Trent Dinkel leads the way. Matthew Long 0.6 back. Long going to try a different line down the hill and into the S's. It worked as Dinkel bleeds off a ton of speed. He just went from a 7/10 gap to about 3/10 as they entered the S's. And Long, just like that, is back in the mix through the end of the S's. Does he go for another move into turn 11? Last time by here, that did not go well for the 28. But does he have anywhere else he can make that move? Can he make it into turn 12? Let's see what happens as they enter the kink at turn 10.
Long just that little bit too far behind to really commit to the inside, but will it allow him to maximum? Look how wide he runs the corner. Dinkel snatches the left front and locks it up, albeit slightly. Was able to get a good run off the corner. Now snaking back and forth, trying to break the draft. It's 3/10 and building. There's a bit of a smile. I feel like there's some optimism now on Dinkel's face.
I saw him weaving, and then I saw him having a drink of water at the same time. So I just wanted to make sure everybody knew that Trent Dinkel, while he might be locked in, is still taking the time to stay hydrated in this battle for the lead. But 4/10 between those two, with Dinkel and Long. 3 to go at the stripe this time by. Dinkel locks up through the stadium section. Dinkel goes wide, Long to the left side, side by side for the race lead as they'll enter their way into turn 17. Dinkel is loose. They door slam as they exit through the stadium section. Dinkel sideways trying to keep the race lead. Long to the inside as they work their way into the right-hander. They touch again. They door slam once more, and Matthew Long is going to get the race lead into turn 20. Can he clear Trent Dinkel? Oh, yes, he can. New race leader. It's the Dirty South Racing 28, but the battle for the lead is not done. Dinkel's going to have another run up the hill to turn 1.
Now we get to see Dinkel on the offense as well. Gravity on your side into 1. And as much as Long wanted to shape up to block the 9 machine, the private label team hype car will slide to the inside, side by side with contact, and Dinkel's able to lock it down and avoid going for a 360, but Long takes advantage and grabs the point.
Matthew Long to the race lead with over a 1-second gap now, but he makes a mistake. He's going to overcook it through the S's. Now here comes Dinkel back into the fight for the race lead. Now does the 28 have to give up any time for that move?
Yes.
He will have to, and he's going to have a drive-through penalty, it sounds like, now at the same time.
He's hit the incident limit. There's a reason we've been talking about it. It's so easy to do. And Matthew Long, who looks like he was on course to grab the victory here at the Circuit of the Americas, is going to fall back likely inside of the top 5, yes, but off of the podium with a drive-through penalty.
It was at the exit of turn 1. It was that door slam from Dinkel and the contact that was made that pushed Matthew Long over that incident penalty limit of 13x. And that is battle for the lead done. And what a lap that was with these two titans of PRL NASCAR Cup Series action going head to head. And I gotta say, I wish it would have gone all the way to the checkered flag, but it was mistakes earlier on in this race that unfortunately came back to push Matthew Long out of the contention for the race win.
And now you got to question Acosta and Hudson. In fact, that's already happened. Acosta in front of Hudson for what is now technically a podium spot. And so Abner Acosta, after all of the hubbub at the start and having to fight his way back on forward, is going to be delighted with that. Matthew Long will have 3 laps with which he can serve the drive-through penalty, and I think he'll hold it as long as possible. It's an 18 or 20 second cone-to-cone time in terms of getting into and off of pit lane. However, that is not the true delta, given that, of course, it's slightly shorter on the inside. But Matthew Long definitely not going to hold on to the podium, I would think. It's going to be clear, though, that I think he'll stay in front of Josh Daniels, who is 30 seconds effectively off of the race leader.
Arjuna, let's say hypothetically 3 laps to serve that black flag. He takes it all the way to the checkered flag. Time penalty at that point.
Oh, the time penalty is worse, if I remember correctly. The time penalty is much worse. You definitely don't want that.
So it'd have to be this time by, and he's still giving pressure to the 9, but Trent Dinkle has to know at this point that it's not going to be a run for the race win. So we're kind of just waiting on Long to come into the pit lane, and you mentioned Bruno Mello would at that point take second, and it looks like Acosta would then take that final spot on the podium, but Long's not done. He's going to send it up the inside of Trent Dinkle for what would be the lead for the moment. Maybe just try. I think he's just trying to put a band-aid on the possible bleeding that he's going to get.
Yeah, well, I don't know if he's necessarily, there's much he can realistically do, but smart anyway. Dinkle doing the best thing he can, which is stay out of trouble, as Skip Gandy's just come down to pit lane. He's another one. That is, of course, got a drive-through penalty. And now the worst thing to do would be to do what Esteban Ocon did in the opening round of the Formula One World Championship this year, would be serve your penalty incorrectly and then have to serve another penalty. So don't speed. Please, Matthew, as you head down to pit lane, hopefully this time by, because you've got a top 5 potentially still on the cards. You don't want to make it worse.
Then at that point, it would be a guaranteed time penalty because we would be on the white flag lap. You would have no opportunity to serve said penalty. But
you can't do a Michael Schumacher, no.
No. Can't have that, especially in NASCAR world. But working his way through turn 19, and he's going to have to enter the pit lane here, or it's going to be a post-race time penalty. And there goes Long into the pit lane. And that will be race lead to the 9 of Trent Dinkle. That will be white flag taken this time by for the 9 of Trent Dinkle as he looks to walk away with victory number 1 of 2023. And Long in the pit lane. Where is he going to come out? Bruno Mello comes across the start-finish line to take his white flag. He will pass Matthew Long. Does Abner Acosta pass Matthew Long? This is going to be a drag race. Acosta does get by. Does Long get by Chris Hudson? Trying to hold on to P4 to the inside to the 28. And yes, he will. Long does good enough to hold on to P4. And now Chris Hudson going to have an opportunity to try and fight him for it.
So the question is 1.5 seconds to Acosta. Can he really close? I think that's what Long's more worried about. Don't worry about looking behind. Look forward. See if he's going to be able to do that. It's going to be hard, though, because through the S's, Acosta looks pretty steady. And once you crest the hill and descend towards turn 11, then the opportunities to close and really still have a chance to make the move happen start to be pretty slim pickings, if we're going to be honest. If I had told you Trent Dinkle pole position to victory lane at the Circuit of the Americas, you would have assumed it was a pretty easy race. But Josh, boy, has it been anything but that.
And again, I think we would have gotten a really, really exciting fight to the end if it would have ended up with Trent Dinkle and Matthew Long racing on the track for it. But again, it was mistakes early on in this race by the number 28 that he racked up those incident points, and when it mattered, when he needed those incident points, he didn't have any to give up. It was one incident point, one piece of contact that drew him over that incident point limit that gave him the drive-through penalty. And it's unfortunate, but you cannot say, as Long and Hudson go into a battle into the braking zone of turn 12, Hudson went up the inside, tried to go for that move, did not get it, as Matthew Long will hold on to P4 for the moment. But out of the final couple of corners, you cannot say that this man did not earn this victory. Looking for victory number 1 of the 2023 year. and looking to go back to victory lane in PRL Cup Series competition. Out of the final corner, Trent Dinkle is victorious from Circuit of the Americas, and an almost perfectly finished race. Picture perfect for the 9.
Sigh of relief there, not too much emotion. Good to be back in victory lane, but he knows it's a long year and one victory does not make a title winning campaign. Mello and Acosta, what a drive from Bruno Mello. Let's just give him potentially our, I would say, driver of the day, but Abner Acosta might take exception to that given that he had a recovery driver of his own, but Bruno Mello definitely the most committed in some of the moves.
Recovery drive up to 3rd after that Matthew Long penalty as Lou Christian blocks up the brakes trying to battle James O'Brien. This is a battle for P9. Now, normally on an oval, about this time after the checkered flag is waved, we're talking about the majority of the cars across the line. Well, we still have 3 miles left of coverage for all the cars to work their way across the start finish, and James O'Brien, Lou Christian in a battle for 9th here as they will work their way out of the final 2 corners. Lou Christian goes wide. That'll extend that 4/10 gap, and private label team hypes number 33, James O'Brien, is going to walk away with that 9th spot. Lou Christian will round out the top 10.
Important for O'Brien to hold on to that spot in the team championship as well, because with Dinkle and Acosta 1 and 3, and then O'Brien grabbing 9th, it's 3 of the private label team hype cars inside of the top 10 as they try and close up the margin in the team championship that is standing at, what was it, 87 points to Dirty South Racing. It's a good day overall for the private label team hype.
And Lou Christian today, 13 spots gained overall on the day. Beautifully done for both him and Rafael Rodriguez, who did finish 1 lap down, but started back in 30th, so he gained 13 spots on the day as well. Taking a look at Eric Papineau, finishing P14. Travis Callahan in front of him. Robert Gamble behind to finish 13th and 15th, respectively. Another series that I also broadcast here on RaceSpotTV, the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series. Eric Papineau, relatively now known figure in the Full Throttle Real Sim Racing Cup Series, running often there. And off week for RSR this week, so he still gets to race at Circuit of the Americas here in the PRL world, and he'll walk away with the top 15. Not a bad day for a majority oval driver.
Again, and this is one of those tracks where you just survive to the end and you'll be happy to get there. 34 started. We had, what, 2.5 seconds that split the top 10 in qualifying, so it's not a shock to only have 15 ending on the lead lap when all things are said and done. But it's great to see that 29 of the drivers were able to reach the checkered flag and see the end of their race.
At the end of the day, private label team hype walks away with 2 drivers on the podium, with Trent Dinkle winning the race, Bruno Mello in 2nd. There's the other private label team hype driver, Abner Acosta. Matthew Long, after that drive-through penalty, comes home in P4. Chris Hudson will walk away with the top 5 at the end of the day. Joshua Daniels, Joe Hoggard, Pat Harvey, James O'Brien, Lou Christian going to round out the top 10 of your results, with Eric Haig, Skip Gandy, Tristan Callahan, Eric Papineau, Robert Gamble, Jose Acosta, Rafael Rodriguez, Troy Torgerson, Byron Johnson, and Scotty Johnson going to round out the top 20. Everybody else down from here, either 1 or multiple laps down, with Brandon Walter, Aaron Beaver, Charles Sumner, who did end up finishing that race under the weather as he may be, Jose Medina, Jeff Winter rounding out the top 25, Chad Kibbe, Rusty Robinson, Jeff Chandler, Tom Amasi, Waldo Walden through to the end of the top 30, with Eric Staropoli, Richard Pruitt, Johan Seminario, and Robert Besaw Jr., all unfortunately with DNFs, as well as Waldo Walden, but with 29 total drivers coming across the start-finish line to end the day here from COTA Arjuna. That was a little bit dodgy towards the middle of that race, especially around the pit stops, but once we got that battle for the lead, once the drivers had found each other on the racetrack, man, we saw some good battles there at the end.
Shame that we didn't get to see it to the end like you mentioned, but it's one of the things that I'd been trying to point out. It's so difficult. 35 laps here, 13 incident points, and knowing that in this type of racing you may end up accumulating more through contacts to keep your nose out of trouble. Fortunately for Trent Dinkle, maybe part of the reason why Matthew Long had caught up was that Long was being more judicious with his use of the track limits, whereas Dinkle may be trying to be a bit more conservative and ensure that he had some incident points to play with come the end if there was going to be a fight. Something definitely drivers around of the sim racing top universe keep in mind.
Well, let's not waste any time and let's get to talking with your drivers for the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. And where they all finish the day. And we begin with your winner, the 9 of Trent Dinkle, as he joins us up here in the broadcast booth. And Trent, it almost went away from you there at the end with Matthew Long, but you end up at the top of the podium once again. And a long time coming for you here in 2023. Just what are the emotions from you right now?
I mean, honestly, I'm not exactly super happy about that. I mean, obviously Matt was quicker, but I think when he pit and then I think he got into some clean traffic and I was stuck following lap cars, and the lap cars just would not move for whatever reason. There was only a handful of them that would get out of the way. Like, I accidentally bumped out of the way Scotty because he like halfway opened the door, then shut it on me. So then I'm, losing time fighting the lappers. And I mean, he definitely was quicker at the end. I don't know if that so much was just like me being in my head with pressure from him or not. But I mean, the guy's super good. I just feel bad that, a 4X, which I think was more a racing deal. I mean, I could have gave him a little bit more room. He probably could have went a little bit wider. But just the fact that was the nail in the coffin for a 13X. And then obviously I was at 12, so I had to be super, super cautious those last couple laps that I didn't get another 1X. But I mean, it's good. I'm happy. It's them Dirty South guys are just stupid good. So it's, taking a lot more to beat them than usual.
Of course, moving forward with such a long calendar to go, not just in this season of action in 2023 season 2, but also of 2023 as a whole. We're out of the road courses, at least for a little bit, and into a little bit more short tracks. The Super Speedway at Talladega coming up. There's tracks left on the calendar for you. Where are you most confident that next win's going to come?
Probably not the rest of the season, because the rest of the schedule is trash, other than pretty much Kansas. I mean, PRL short track races are just a mess for the most part, unfortunately, and I would imagine I'm starting in the back of the next 2 anyways, so that'll make it more enjoyable. But we'll keep working. I think last season just was not good. I couldn't do anything. I kept getting penalized, so I just kind of told the guys, like, hey, I'm not really going to try the rest of this season, so, I think we'll get back at it this season and get Private Label back on top, and hopefully, me, Abner, or James, one of us, somebody up on the top of the results charts every week.
Well, congratulations on the win tonight, Trent, and hopefully it's many more in 2023. And congratulations once again. Thanks for joining us up here in the broadcast booth.
Yeah, thank you.
Great to hear from Trent Dinkle, of course, a regular face now when it comes to post-race shows here for the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. And Abner Acosta, the run back to the podium. Arjuna, you're standing by, or the driver of the 5.
Yeah, Abner, let's start with the incident on lap number 1. What happened there with the car stepping out on you as you worked your way into the penultimate corner?
I don't know. I think it was just cold tires, and just got a little wiggle and try to not be too erratic on the wheel, and I just kind of touched the grass, and it just took me off course, which yeah, sucks, but happens.
Then you had a bit of fun fighting your way to the front of the queue, closing up to that fight for what at that point was the 3rd step on the podium. In terms of the pit stop call, you came in basically halfway through at the end of lap number 16. Was the goal just trying to get out of traffic, and were you then a little bit frustrated that you had to fight side by side through turn 1 coming out of pit lane?
Yeah, we did pit early. Had 3 guys in front of me, can't remember who they were, but I had faster pace because I had caught them, but it's really tough to pass here. So we decided to just pit early, but then I also made the mistake to full the whole tank instead of doing 11 gallons. So I was actually surprised I came out ahead or close to them. So and no, I'm glad we didn't touch. I think it was Bruno. I'm glad we didn't touch. We were able to race out of there clean. So everything worked out.
Sounds like you were close to 13x.
Oh yeah, yeah. I think that's exactly what I had. 13x's. No, hold on.
So
10. I had like 10. Sorry.
Okay, so you were close to getting the penalty. Congratulations on a great recovery drive, Abner, and we'll see you in a week's time.
All right, thank you guys. Have a good night.
What a drive from Abner Acosta to work his way back up into the top 3 at the end of this one. And we'll get to talking with Matthew Long, who was so close to walking away with a win today, but unfortunately does not walk away with a win. But you still walk away with fourth, Matthew. And just towards the end of that race, were you watching those incident points like a hawk? Was it the exact thing that you were thinking of, or was that something that you suddenly just see a black flag up at the top of your screen and race win over and gone?
No, we definitely knew we were where we were at. Unfortunately, before the race started, I got rammed into in the rear and got a 4X from that, and that really put us behind on the limits. And I had a few off tracks throughout the race here and there, but yeah, me and Trent just racing hard there. He did nothing wrong at all. We just got into each other and got off track a little bit, and that put me over that limit. But yeah, that 4X before the race stung a little bit. Otherwise, what an awesome race. Congrats to Trent.
And the speed that you've shown, obviously, today, it wasn't enough to reach that number 9 and that long green flag run, of course, that we had at the beginning of the race. But once you got into traffic, once you reached him, how difficult was it to try and make that move? Because we saw one lunge, didn't quite get it. Saw you try another lunge and not quite close to the apex. Just how difficult was that defense to try and get around from the 9 while you were trying to work as much offense as you could?
Yeah, it was really tough. I mean, Trent is a hell of a road course driver, and to be honest, since I joined PRL a couple years back, I've been trying to get better and better, chasing down Abner and Trent on these deals, and it was awesome to finally have some pace today and be able to take the fight to them. And throughout that whole race, we made an awesome pit call to get us in early and avoid some of the lap traffic and just digging on Trent. When I got there, yeah, that first lunge was probably a little bit too much, and had to fight back. But all in all, Trent just drove a great race. It was just a little bit too little, too late there.
Richmond coming up next week. Where's your confidence level at for both Richmond and Martinsville? Back-to-back short tracks to continue the season off.
Love them. I can't wait. I think we'll bring some good cars and hopefully get back in victory lane.
Thanks for joining us, Matt. Congratulations again on your 4th place finish and what could have been here from Circuit of the Americas.
All right, thanks, y'all.
And a great run, of course, from Matthew Long tonight. And unfortunately, not exactly what he wanted, but we're not going to get Bruno Mello in the booth tonight with us, Arjuna, but you do seem to have a memo from him that he would like to share.
Yeah, it's always good, even if your English isn't necessarily that good, you're not feeling that comfortable about coming and talking to us about, you send us a memo. We're happy to relay your thoughts. He says, good evening. COTA is a very technical track, and in this car, it is very challenging. The strategy today was to be constant and not make any mistakes. Did a great job of that, I think it's fair to say. And he thinks it worked. It was his debut in the championship, and he hopes to continue like this. And I hope so as well, because he was feisty. 2nd place on debut, Josh. Doesn't get much better than that.
There you go. You get to read a memo from your new favorite PRL driver. I mean, what a day it's turning out to be here at Circuit of the Americas. But that will wrap us up for our post-race coverage here for the Precision Racing League NASCAR Cup Series. And Arjuna, 1 week's time, we go to a polar opposite racetrack in the Richmond Raceway. But we're not 3.4 miles of road course, but we are back to less than 1 mile short track racing. And we heard Trent Dinkle mention it.
Yep.
He's not too confident about the race quality at Richmond, but it is just such a unique short track as well. The D-shaped oval that really chews up those tires. It's going to be another day that the tire whisperer Abner Acosta is going to have the foot over the rest of the competition.
This is a very different sort of a race, though, right? Just because we know and we're going to expect the fact that there are going to be cautions. It's going to be a stop-and-start day, and it's going to be one that drivers maybe are going to feel a little frustration. We'll see how it all factors out, though. I get the sense that we'll still be in for a good race at Richmond, a track that, of course, Josh has got plenty of involvement in our sim racing universe.
Yeah, Richmond Raceway Esports have just been a mainstay now of the iRacing service for a long time. And like you mentioned, just esports in general. So great to see them back on the calendar, of course, for another year, real life of NASCAR and of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. But you can join us for all of that coverage 1 week from tonight, another Sunday night, April the 2nd, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time, when we get started with action from the virtual Richmond Raceway. But that's going to do it for another race in the PRL NASCAR Cup Series. And for Nick Hunter joining us in the booth, and for everybody at RaceSpotTV, and for my colleague in the booth tonight, Arjuna Kankipati, my name is Joshua Lee. We thank you for tuning in to coverage of the PRL NASCAR Cup Series from iRacing's virtual Circuit of the Americas, where Trent Dinkle is victorious once again. Will it remain the same when we go racing in Richmond? We can find out in 1 week's time on RaceSpotTV. But for now, we're saying good night from virtual Austin.